G'day everyone. Welcome once again to one of our Tassie Martial Arts Lockdown Chats. Today we're going to hear from one of Tassie Boxing's most prominent coaches and gym owners in the Launceston area he is. And without further ado, we'll welcome along Nick Twigs Millwood. How are you going, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really awesome, buddy. And I think that's the first time I've ever said Nick when referring to you.
Yeah, I think my grandmother's about the only one of my missus. They're the only ones that call me Nick.
Very good. So with that, mate, you've been known as Twigs for a long time. How did that come about?
When I was about 5 years old, one of the fellas that played footy with my dad at the Longford Footy Club, my dad's nickname's Logs, and yeah, this certain fellow was pretty pissed one night, and he goes, "Oh, well, if he's Logs, you must be little Twigs." And from that day on, yeah, even before I started school, I was called Twigs. So yeah, from that day on, it's been that. Yeah, so just stuck.
Yeah, and you know, I don't reckon too many people would know you as anything but Twigs, to be quite honest.
No, that's it. Yeah, a lot of people get pretty shocked when they find out my name's as boring as Nick.
So growing up, Launceston, mate, or you mentioned your dad was out at Longford. So was it you grew up in Launceston, or were you outside of Longford?
Yeah, so grew up in Longford. Lived in Longford until I was 17, and then sort of moved into town with Mum from then on, and sort of stayed in and around town for the next sort of 10 years, and then ended up out here at Hadsburn. So
yeah. Sweet. So, school, you were a St Pat's boy, I think. Would that be right?
Yes. Yep. Went to St Pat's. Yeah.
Yep.
Only went to grade 10, then did a building apprenticeship. So.
Yeah. Okay. And that seems to have worked out reasonably well for you, mate. We'll get to that a little bit later. Sports when you were at school, what sort of thing did you dabble in, buddy?
Oh, everything really. Yeah. Played football, basketball, cricket. Sort of didn't really take up boxing until I was 17 or 18. So high school was full of footy, cricket, basketball, that sort of thing. So bit of a jock, I suppose you'd say.
Yep. I think all the guys wanted to do everything, and
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you started having a look at boxing around 17, 18. Where did you first get the introduction into boxing, mate? Who was that with?
So it was at Prospect Boxing Club with Steve Blizzard and Scotty Ingalls. So Prospect Boxing Club back then used to be near the Silverdome roundabout in Ingermell Street in Prospect. So trained there for probably 18 months under them guys, had a couple of fights, and being a young fella, couldn't decide what I wanted to do. Went back and played football for a couple of years, and sort of squandered my boxing career. Too busy drinking beers and playing footy. So yeah.
I think that happens to a lot of people, mate, for sure.
Yeah.
So a little bit further down the track, you found yourself back at Prospect with a boxing club.
Yes.
Of your own. So how did that come about?
Initially, I had my last fight in 2010 and took the next couple of years off and played football out at Perth there. Played a fair few seasons at Perth from when I was 16 till I was 22. And just decided one summer that I thought I might get back into boxing and give it another crack, saying I didn't do it properly the first time, and sort of went along to Prospect Boxing Club. That stage was at the Italian Club, so Liz had moved it from Ingermell Street down to across the road from Glenara Lakes in Kings Meadows. I was there for a while, and then he moved it up to the Italian Club, and started training again. Was looking at having a fight, and then there was a week there where there was just heaps and heaps of people in the gym, and I was probably one of the more experienced people there, and they just asked me if I wanted to have a go at coaching. So that was sort of me done then. Yeah, started coaching back in 2012 and haven't stopped since.
Yeah. And over that time, you guys have produced some great boxers along that journey. Who would you say is perhaps, let's say, we'll stick with amateurs first, juniors and seniors, probably the most prominent or well-known amateur junior and amateur senior that you've had during that time?
Yeah, look, I've been pretty lucky where I've been. I've had a lot of great kids come through the gym, and as a club, since 2012, we've trained over 20 Australian champions in boxing, kickboxing and MMA and jiu-jitsu when Steve was there. So we're pretty proud of those numbers. But a junior, definitely have to be Bailey Wells. Bailey's had 40 fights, won 4 Australian titles. He's won, I think, 4 state titles as well. Really good, slick, natural little boxer, and looking before lockdown, we were looking at turning him pro this year, so he's going to have his first pro fight. Right. So we're still got that on track now. So
awesome.
Hopefully getting a pro fight by the end of the year.
Let's hope we can be fighting by the end of the year for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, and so Bailey's up there with you now, and he's taking on a little bit of coaching as well.
Yeah, so it's good. So I've had Bailey since he's about 10 years old. So he's 18 now, so I've had him a long time. And, it's just nice to see a kid that I had from 10 years old, sort of, 2 foot tall, to be coming through as a really nice, polite young adult that's helping out at the gym. And all the parents of the kids that he coaches, they all have a lot of time for him and have a lot of respect for him, because he doesn't say much, old Bales, but when he does, you tend to listen, even as a young fella like that. He's got a very good boxing brain, so... Yeah, it's a very handy asset to have at the club, and it's nice feeling to know that you've sort of grown that yourself. So,
yeah. Oh, look, that's 100% right, mate. Yeah, I've obviously know Bailey's dad, but I've met Bailey a couple of times. He's always come across as a super polite young man, and
they've done a bloody good job raising him.
Yeah, it certainly shines through, mate. And so, how about senior amateurs?
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to give it to me boy, Leighton McFerrin. So Leighton came to us after probably 25 fights from Lilydale Boxing Club as a 15-year-old kid. And how old's Leighton now? He'd be 22 now, I suppose. Yeah, he'd be 22. And, he had another, I think he ended up with about 65 to 70 amateur boxing fights in the end. He won a couple of Australian titles, won a few state titles. He was the state team captain. An outstanding, well, it was an outstanding amateur career, but towards the end of it, it took Leighton's year, I think, probably one of the hardest working fighters I've ever seen. When he's on, he's at the gym and he trains his guts out, and he's one of those kids he'll fight everyone. And he's gone on to the pros now, and he's the current Victorian state super featherweight champion in the pros. So he's had 4 pro fights, 3 wins, 1 loss, and so he's going along really well in the pros too. So.
Yeah, super
he's got good power.
Yeah,
very impressive. And same thing again with him as well as Bailey. You wouldn't get a more polite, well-mannered young man. So
no, that's a credit to how you're doing things up there, mate, for sure. Because especially with guys like Bailey, if they've been there 8 years, you've had a lot of input into them, and Leighton for 6 or 7 years, a lot of input from you and the guys around the club. Current coaches up there, you've got. Zane and Cameron, obviously Bailey and yourself.
Yep.
Is there anyone else up there doing some stuff with you?
Oh, look, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Not really, no. Every now and then, if one of us can't get there, one of the more experienced guys will jump in and help out if they need to. But the beauty of having 4 coaches, and obviously including myself, so I've got 3 other guys that I can really rely on. It helps a lot. So the gym's in a good spot at the moment. Really good atmosphere, and everyone's going in the same direction, which is great.
That's that's a really big thing, because it's hard when people are pulling in different directions. But it sounds like you guys are right on top of it, and looking like you'll come out the other side when we can open back up and full steam ahead by the sounds of that, mate.
Yeah, I hope so, mate. I was pretty gutted when it all came about, because it was looking to be a pretty strong year for our club. So probably, I think we including the TazzyAz guys, so Mousy and Plugger, we had 4 or 5 professional boxers. We're Etchy doing the pro MMA thing, and probably 12 or 13 really good amateur boxers in the amateur program. So, we were looking to have a massive year. So hopefully they all keep their motivation and all the reasons why in their head, why they're doing it, why they want to do it. So hopefully they can come back and we didn't miss a beat.
No, hopefully so. And all the clubs and the gyms around the state are going to be in a similar situation. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how we move forward afterwards. Now, you briefly mentioned the Buzzsaw there, who's his pro MMA stuff. He's a super talented young fella. you cornered his last fight here in Tassie.
Yep.
And obviously had a fair bit to do with his coaching, his stand-up, that sort of stuff, mate. He trained pretty much only with you for that fight, even though it was an MMA fight and not just purely a stand-up fight?
Yeah, look, so I've had a part in training Sean since, I think it was 2014 he came to LBC, and I've managed him for that time too. So I've always sort of, Sean's like, Sean, Bailey and Leighton, they're all like my kids, them boys. Like, I'd look after them and do anything for them. And with Sean, it was more so a lot of the last few fights, there was a lot of people that had a lot of opinions on what he should do and how he should train. And after all that, after his last fight against Beckside, we just decided to just take it back to and do it exactly how he did it when he beat Tim Moore on the Gold Coast for his featherweight or his bantamweight Australian title. And that's just what we did. I sent him down to BJJ Taz, trained with them boys. He did some submission no-gi grappling with them. He went and did some personals with Zach at Abaddon. So he was still getting his run, like he's still getting his bit of a mixture, but it was more so just focused on getting him super fit, getting him punch ready too. A lot of sparring rounds for him, just getting him used to having that glove in his face and that competitive, always going out and having to compete for 10 rounds every Saturday morning and stuff like that. It was just a different mindset for him. The kid's grown up, he's everyone knows that he's always had the ability and he's always had that X factor, and everyone loves watching him. He's exciting to watch, but it's nice to see now that as he's grown up a bit, he's got his life in order and he's got what he wants out of life in order too, So he's got himself a little vision board that he's got in his lounge room that he looks at every day. So it's good to see him pushing for what he wants and finally realising that you can't just sit there and let everyone give it to you. You've got to go out there and get it yourself.
Yeah, no, that's good. When I listen to you talk about, Sean just then, but, Bailey and Leighton, those sort of guys, it's obvious you've got a lot of passion for the sport. And you put a lot of yourself into these guys, mate. You do put a lot of yourself. Mate. Yeah,
and I think that's a problem. Really, sometimes it can be a blessing and a curse, because I treat LBC as if that's my family. That's the family that I created, and it's one of those things that. And when you are passionate about something, you're passionate for the good times and you're passionate for the bad times, and this red hair, mate, that don't help for the passion in the bad times.
Yeah, I see you got the tartan underneath the cap too, mate. She's a bit of
a got to keep the red gold, mate.
Yeah, and every club has its ups and downs over the journey, and you've got to expect that. But if you have that total commitment from the main guy in charge, and that's you, I think your club's always going to be in pretty good stead, moving forward. So that's actually great to see, mate. Because we have detractors along the journey, and a lot of people saying shit, and it's good to hear you being passionate about it, because at the end of the day, fuck the detractors, mate. We don't care about them.
Oh, and that's it, mate. And that's the thing. You have to think about all the fuckheads over the time that have given you their opinion that is unfounded and unwarranted. And where are they now? They're not here. You don't hear their names anymore. They're not around the sport. They're just the people that come in for 3 months or 6 months, think they can say and do what they want, and then they fuck off again, and they leave us real, passionate purists of martial arts and boxing and all our competitive combat sports, and we just keep doing our thing. And I think for a lot of people, when they start their journey out in the combat sports area, you do find it very hard sometimes. You get disillusioned with how many dickheads have an issue or an opinion, and I've been known to get caught up in those opinions and
Nope, we've lost you.
Things back. Myself. So it's nice now to be able to sort of Zach, you there? Back?
Hang on.
Yeah, and it's just good to be able to get past all that and realise and see that all those things that those people say, they don't mean shit. You just keep doing your thing, keep turning up to the gym every week, working on your people, working on yourself, and it's all you can do.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. We keep working on ourselves. I think it's why we're in this sort of environment and why we put ourselves out there, because we want to be better as well, and we want our people to be better. So, you're doing a great job in that respect, mate, and I certainly commend you for it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about boxing in general, because a lot of these chats are with martial artists that aren't boxing. Obviously, I've done some jiu-jitsu guys and some karate guys and kung fu guys, this sort of thing. So the state of the world of boxing at the moment. Now, if we start at the top with the big lads, we've got Tyson Fury, probably the number one guy. Maybe Anthony Joshua is right up there as well. What's your thoughts on the state of play in the heavyweight division, buddy?
Oh, look, you can't go past Tyson Fury. You know, like he's a pure box. Like, he's got one of the best fight brains you'll ever see in the flesh or listen to too. I watch a lot of his videos and a lot of things, his interviews that he talks about. And when he talks about, he knows boxing. That boxing's in his blood for generations. You can just tell that he knows. He's an he knows what he's doing. And the other thing with it is too, is he's got that mongrel in him, which is, I think, enough to get him over AJ. AJ is slick and AJ works hard, but I just don't think that he can handle what Tyson Fury brings to the table. And I'm not there. It's a hard one. Because AJ's skills are up there, probably hard, but he hasn't got, I don't think he's got the grit and the mongrel. Not saying he's got the heart, but he hasn't got the mongrel to probably hang in there for 12 rounds with Tyson Fury.
Yeah, he seems like, and obviously I don't know anywhere near as much about it as you, but Tyson Fury seems like a pure boxer. He actually outboxes his opponents. I mean, he's a huge guy, obviously, but his boxing prowess comes through in his fights.
Absolutely. You can see when he makes people look stupid. He made Deontay Wilder look stupid, really. And to think that Wilder had been so dominant in the heavyweight, division for so long, and finally Fury gets his chance at him, he makes him look like a muppet, really. Like it sort of makes you think, well, what's he going to do to AJ, or what's he going to do to, all these other guys that, that are up there alongside his name. So, but I think in the next 12 months to 2 years, he'll be up there by himself, and there won't be many people touching him, I don't reckon. Yeah.
No, look, I tend to agree without actually knowing too much to back that up.
Yeah.
But, okay, so they're the modern guys. Who's your pick for the number one heavyweight of all time? This is
Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. It's got to be Tyson.
Yeah, certainly at the peak of his powers, mate. Yeah.
Absolutely. And he says as himself, like, boxer's now a businessman. He was, when he was a boxer, he was a killer. He was going out there to kill people. He was out there to win the fight. He didn't care how much money he was making or what he was doing after the fight. He was worried about that fight. Obviously, as he got a bit older and a lot of shit happened in his life and a lot of outside factors sort of bared in on what he was doing as a boxer, and he eventually, he sort of dwindled off. When he was in his prime, I don't think there's anyone better.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree from a spectator's point of view. He was
absolutely fantastic to watch.
Yeah, and I've heard a bit of his stuff lately, on Joe Rogan's podcast, that sort of thing, and he's a bloody interesting guy and a lot smarter than what I thought he was. He's a really intelligent guy as well.
Yeah. No, I've watched a lot of Joe Rogan's interviews with Tyson as well, and it's just good to see him in that sort of relaxed atmosphere and listen to him talk about himself too, and how someone that was known as the baddest man on the planet comes to terms with the fact that he's just this old dude that used to be the baddest man on the planet. That's be a pretty hard pill to swallow for someone like Tyson. So yeah, it's good to see, good to listen to people that have been in those low points in their lives that have grown and come out of it. And yeah, a lot of people should listen to people like that and take their words and try and use them in their own way.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, mate. It's yeah, for sure. Now, let's talk a little more about yourself. I know you're probably not super comfortable talking about yourself, mate, but we'll do it. Yeah. People want to know what makes you tick. Now, you said that you left after grade 10 and went and did a building apprenticeship. You're currently the managing director of Pro Build Tasmania, a state and national award-winning building company. Pretty good, mate.
Yes,
yeah. Good.
No, so it's good. Yeah. Oz champion builders and Oz champion boxers. So, pretty happy with that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. And so you employ a few people through your business, mate?
Yeah, so there's 5 of us at the moment. So there's myself and my business partner, Adam. And we've also got Nick Dean, Shane Kirkham, and young Bailey Wells. He's our apprentice. So, yeah, and Mum jumps in and does the books every now and then to help me too. So, yeah, no, we're going along pretty well. We've got heaps to work on. So,
yeah. No, that's
and all the guys that work for me have trained at the gym too. So,
yeah, well, that's actually a good thing because you know what sort of people they are through their training. Because
absolutely,
yeah, when people
I gave them jobs based off their work ethic that I saw in the gym too.
Yeah,
so you know, like they all trained at the gym before I employed them. It wasn't the other way around. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, mate. So so that's your work now.
Yep.
Lovely partner Gemma.
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah.
All that's going well. How's that going in these lockdown times, mate?
Really good, mate. We're best mates, really. A lot of people, you know, talk about being best mates with their partners and stuff like that, and it sounds like a bit shy, but we're pretty lucky. We could sit there and talk shit all day, and it wouldn't really matter. And we get sick of each other, we just go to the other end of the house for 5 minutes and come back to it. But yeah, no, it's going really well.
That's excellent, mate. No, it really is. Okay. Now, just before we hit the record button, we talked briefly about the different associations in boxing, especially here in Tassie and on the mainland. Now, I sort of had a look online and there was a few about, and you briefly explained what the go was. Tell us about how you ended up in the boxing affiliation that your club is with now and why.
So we're with Boxing Tasmania. I had a couple of fights in Boxing Tasmania, and then when I took over Prospect Boxing Club and turned it to Launceston Boxing Club, we probably had 6 months there where we were in Boxing Tasmania. And at that point in time, LBC had a really strong MMA team. We had David Buck, Christina Tatnell, Dalton Jenkins, who else we have? Sam Chapman. I can't think who else we had off the top of our head, but we had a really solid crew. And Boxing Tasmania turned around and told us that due to insurance reasons, they wouldn't allow any clubs affiliated to have MMA training out of their gym. And the coaches, because the coaches were obviously members of Boxing Tasmania, they come under their insurances as well. It was deemed that even though it wasn't on a Boxing Tasmania show, we weren't allowed to corner professional fighters or anyone to do with MMA. So, and at that point in time, our club was basically 50-50. It was 50% boxing, 50% MMA. And so I'd made the decision. I rang Adrian, who's now probably one of my best mates, rang 80 up and sort of said, look, we're looking at coming over. What sort of information can you give us? And gave him the rundown on what we've been doing at the club. And he basically said that we were welcome to do, as long as we treated the TBLI with respect and the AABLI with respect, we were basically allowed to do whatever we pleased. So, so it was no-brainer for us at that time. And since we moved over, the league has gone along in leaps and bounds. And I think at one stage there we had about 18 clubs. I think now it's around about 12. But yeah, we have competitive, at least 10, 12 competitive fights every month between all the clubs in Tassie, so which is a really good thing.
No, certainly is. And so mainly because of the MMA program that you're running at the time, which is great, and you mentioned all those fantastic fighters to come out of that program. I know right now that it's probably less MMA and more boxing that you're doing at the moment. Are you looking to incorporate more MMA moving forward?
Oh, look, don't know. I don't think so. Pretty happy at this point in time. We've only got Sean, and it was really hard running MMA classes after when sort of Steve left because of his work commitments and stuff like that. And when he left as well, there was no point in me keeping it going because it was just I can't teach what he can teach. And I felt in my class, because he was working away so often, if I didn't have set times for these guys to come and train, we were never going to keep them anyway. And with Sean, it was just a lot easier just to keep him by himself. And I'd give him to Zach for, a few sessions a week, or if I give him to BJJ Taz or he trains with me, It's more of a Launceston team effort with Sean, really. Like those two clubs that I've spoken about, they got a lot of love for Sean and a lot of respect. And, it's nice feeling for me to be able to trust, someone that I hold very dearly, that not only do I coach, but he's basically like family to me, but to know that I can send him with these guys and know that he's going to get the proper training and, he's going to get another decent person in his ear telling him what to do and helping him through. So that's the only thing with that. So at this point in time, unless someone like a Sean, 5 years' time retires and wants to be a coach, that'd probably be about the only time that I'd open up to that sort of thing. But yeah, so at this stage, we'll just focus on the boxing and sort of keep the MMA side of it as MMA stand-up, I suppose you'd say. So
yeah. No, fair enough. It sounds like a pretty good way to do it, mate, without sort of having to dabble too far into everything.
Yeah.
No, cool. And let's talk then about your affiliations with the clubs around Launceston and sending your fighters there. Like you've said that Etch goes down and sees Zach and Jake and that for his kickboxing side of things, and down to Taz BJJ with Brad and Kane and those sort of blokes down there. That sort of brings me to the point that I'm trying to make in a roundabout fashion. Lonnie's a pretty close community as far as that sort of thing goes. We can all trust each other to not try and steal your bloke you're sending down, and know that we're getting professional, really, really good instruction from those guys as well. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think that the more clubs than that, like we do it on a boxing sort of thing. Like we have a lot of inter-club sparring and stuff like that with the boxing, and there's nothing better, especially when 80 brings Brighton Boxing Club up to Launceston. We do it on purpose. I'll corner his guys, he'll corner my guys, and we'll both give them different. And it works too. A lot of the kids will come away, and we say to them all the time, "What's one thing that you learnt different?" And they do, because the way that I say something is completely different to how Adrian says it, or you say it, or Kane says it, or whoever says it. And sometimes that one thing will just register with someone, and that can make a huge difference in people's development. And I think a lot of people they need to put their egos aside and do those things and get around everyone and actually see that it's a pretty decent community with a lot of decent people in it. So, if you open yourself up to it and try and stick to the right side of it and the right people, then you're laughing.
Yeah, no, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted you to say. Yeah. I do have a question here from a good mate of yours, and you'll know exactly who it is when I ask it.
Here we go.
Yeah, it was, how tough is Steve Wallace?
Fucking
So you know exactly who asked it, don't you?
Tough as a $2 steak, and about it. No, not really. No, he's a. There's not many tougher than old Steve, that's for sure. You've only got to look at his ears to see that.
Yeah, no, he's a good bloke. There's no doubt at all. Yeah. And
he's yours now. He's yours.
He's doing a little bit of work out of our dojo. Yes, for sure. I don't think he's anybody's, apart from perhaps Trish.
No, definitely not. I tried to tame him for a few years, mate. That was never going to happen.
No, for sure.
Yes, but, one of the smartest and most knowledgeable MMA guys in Tasmania, without a doubt, Steve. He's forgotten more than he can remember himself. But he's forgotten a lot more than a lot of people have ever learned too. The things that he can come out with some days, you don't see him for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden he comes out and he's showing these things that people hadn't seen for 20 years, and it's so conventional and it just works so well. And that's Steve's style. He's not fancy, but everything that he does is super effective and pretty violent too. So
I would agree with that, and I'm hoping to sit him down and have a chat. And I think the only way I'm going to get it is actually get in the same room as him and stick a camera on.
You're going to have to stick your iPad in front of you, mate.
Yeah,
and a beer. Budweiser and an iPad, you'd laugh.
Yeah, a couple of beers will get him talking, no doubt. So it'll be all good.
No more than four.
No more than four. I'll keep that in mind. You touched very briefly on the TazzyAz crew. I know you do a fair bit of work that's your association with Adrian, I assume, and
Yeah.
the fighters down there, and you've taken them to the mainland with those guys, and whenever they're fighting, you're in the corner as well, mate.
Yeah, so TazzyAz is mine and Adrian's thing. It was like, at the time, he had Plugger and Mousey as pro boxers and Joe Corner at the time, and we had Leighton as a pro, and it just made sense to us if we were going to be if Adrian was going to be helping us get Leighton on the card with his guys. It was better off if we just did it as like a team thing. So at this point in time, so there's in the corners, it's usually Adrian as head coach with his guys. I jump in there when it's Leighton, but usually I'm just the cut man and just the second person there, just for the other guys to talk to. And then we've got Big Pony as well. And Pony lives in Melbourne. He's been around boxing for 30 odd years, and he knows his shit as well. So he always comes in and gives us a hand every time we're over, which is always good.
Yeah. And how do you find when you make the trip across the ditch, mate, and fight in the mainland? Tassie box is well received over there, and how do we stack up against the guys over there?
Mate, TazzyAz is we're called that for that reason. We had a bit of a cult following in Melbourne there for a while, especially when Plugger was fighting some pretty big names in Melbourne, and no one knew who he was back then, and he was beating them or putting them out, and we sort of got the name TazzyAz because we didn't mind to have a couple of beers after the fights and get a bit rowdy, and it sort of came from that, mate. So no, we get it. We're with Big Time Boxing with Brian Armatruda, and he really looks after us, and we try to do the right thing too. So when Brian needs help, if he's got some international fighters that don't have a cornerman or they need their hands wrapped, I put my hand up. He always comes over and asks me, and I'll go and jump in the corner and help him out. But he looks after us as well. You know, he picks us up from the airport, takes us to the hotel, he drops us back to the airport. We don't have to put our hand in our pocket for basically anything. So when and Brian and Angelo DiCarlo, they're the men in Australia for boxing, I believe, at the moment. And it just shows why, because of just the professionalism that they run their shows at and the crowds that they get. And it's good. It's nice to be able to go, and especially going so regularly too. You build so many great relationships. So I work Willis Meehan's corner as well. I do his cut work, and when he's in Melbourne, that's a pretty big thing. So most people know who Carly Meehan is, and arguably one of Australia's greatest ever heavyweight boxers. And Willis is shaping up to be somewhere along the same lines. So that'll be pretty interesting to see. So come in the next few years.
Good journey to follow for sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. So obviously we're not quite back at the gym just yet, but we'll be back there soon. Have you guys planned to get some shows underway before the end of the year and, get things off on a quick start afterwards?
Well, it's one of those things. Like, I was supposed to be holding a tournament at the Italian club in July, and at this point in time, that's not going to be happening. We don't even know if the Australian titles are going to be happening at this point in time either, because they're going to be in Queensland this year in Townsville, Breakwater Casino. But the reason being, fighters and officials and cornermen out of the way, that's nearly 50 or 60 people. It's not financially viable for me, especially in a lot of other non-for-profit clubs. These tournaments are the major fundraiser to get our guys away at the end of the year for the Australian titles. So it's a hard one. It's the TBLI, as us as a committee, are probably going to look at putting on just a TBLI event when we can have, when the numbers open up a bit, and hopefully get it kick-started again. But as I said, until we know how many, when these restrictions ease a little bit, so we can actually sort of turn a bit of a profit to make it worthwhile, so to speak.
No, that's probably fair enough. And I think it's the same with most of the other martial arts shows that are around at the moment, mate. It's all about a bit of wait and see. But hopefully we come out and everyone goes nuts, mate. And it's
it'd be
awesome,
fantastic if it did, because there's a lot of people with that are chomping at the bit to get back into it, and it's a hard, and that's the thing too. You have a think about a lot of these athletes that are 27, 30, 33, like, missing this amount of time is pretty crucial in someone's career. Like, that could be the difference between having another 2 fights or, potentially that being it. So, it's hopefully everyone can come out of it and just keep on striding forward like nothing's happened.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, mate. I think we just about covered most stuff, buddy. You're going to talk to everyone. Look what you're going to do for a tournament, which is fantastic. Try and get one on before the end of the year. Like the rest of the guys, the same when I talk to Jakey Gelston and Zach, they're going to try and do something before the end of the year. The jiu-jitsu guys are the same. We're all in the same boat, unfortunately. It's good to see everyone that I've talked to has been saying about how good the Tassie community is, and I hope that continues into the future. And, you know, the dickheads and the detractors are chucked to the side and everyone just gets together and does things as a whole. And that's sort of part of the reason why I'm doing these chats, just to make sure that people get to know everyone a little better and we can work together moving forward. So I do appreciate your time today, mate. I know it's...
Thanks for having me, mate. It's good to chat to you.
Yeah, look, for sure, mate. Absolutely. My daughter says hello. She's up in Queensland now. Yes. She calls you dad, so you must be okay. So it's all good. And Speedy, Speedy's up there doing his thing. And he'll be champing at the bit to get into his training flat out as well too. So they said hello, mate. And
good to see you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, before we go, just a question out of nowhere. The tattoos, mate, you've got a couple.
Got a few.
Yes. Okay. And we can't see too many, but you just put your hand up there, and it just reminded me that yes, you are a well tattooed young fellow. And when did you get your first one? What was your first tattoo?
First one? My first one was a shitty bit of tribal when I was 16. That's the bit there. There's a bit of flash off the wall at Tubby's old tattoo shop in Prospect.
Yeah, right.
That was when you needed a permission slip with your mum's signature to get a tattoo when you're under 18. So, and I have regretted that ever since. So, but I think everyone's got a little bit of tribal. If you've got tattoos, you've got to have at least a little bit of tribal, I think.
Yeah, I believe that to be the case, mate. And let's give a plug to the tattoo parlour that you go to now, mate, because I think everyone knows.
Oh, definitely. Well, they're a major sponsor of our boxing club too. And if it wasn't for Jimmy out of Kings and Gods, the club wouldn't have had such a decent start at the start. He gave me a lot of money to get me up and going. And, he's our major sponsor. And, he does all my tattoos, him and Whitey. And obviously Cranston. Cranston's probably one of my best mates. So those boys always look after me. Yeah. As much as they can anyway. So good. So if you need tattoo, go to Kings and Gods in George Street. Kings and Gods,
no, absolutely. I'm glad I mentioned it now because I meant to. I had it written down. So that's awesome, buddy. Thanks a lot, Twigs. We'll leave it there and let's get back to your day. And hopefully we can catch up soon. Have a beer or something, mate. Thank you very much.
Sounds good to me, Pets. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
See you. Bye.